to another episode of the Higher Level podcast. So on tonight's show, joining us, we have the Cheesecake Assassin himself, Danny Mitchell. Danny, thanks for coming on, mate. How's things? How are you?
Yeah, everything's good, mate. I'm busier than ever, to be fair, despite all the restrictions and the stuff that's happening. I don't seem to get a minute, so yeah, it's good to just sit down and chill out for a bit.
That's a good thing, though, right?
Yeah, it's good to be busy. It keeps me out of committing crimes and stuff.
You say that, and you've got what looks like a samurai sword behind you.
You're the only one without a sword behind you.
I know, I probably should have one.
Yeah, look at that.
James is rocking a few, but to be fair, I'm up mobbing. I probably should have a sword.
That's it. You need to be able to just grab it, though. That's the thing. You know, by the time I've broken into your house, that bookshelf's over. You know, you're not going to be able to grab them. So
I've got.
See that? This is the problem. This is. I was going to say, please don't, man. My ears will explode. See, this is the problem. I watch your defence videos, Danny, and I'm not putting them into practice. That's the problem. Although exactly. I have got toilet roll with me in case I venture out this hotel tonight. So we were talking a wee bit before. Obviously, you put that video up with Liam Harris, and it was brilliant, man. It was a very funny video. It's great seeing that stuff, obviously, especially in these current times. But Liam put a bit of a kick on you at the end of it, and I'd ask you off camera if you put a bit of snap into that. And well, you can elaborate.
Yeah. I just said, because we were going to make this video, I said, let's just make a funny video. So, we came up with this, headbutt defence thing. And then it's like, well, what do we do? You defended it. What do we do after? What's like the finish? And I said, listen, just obviously Liam's thing is a super hard low kicker. And I said, listen, just volley me with the hardest low kick you can, and I'll just eat it. I'll just take it and fall over. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, but let's just do it once. Let's do one take, because I don't want to be taking multiple leg kicks. So yeah.
My name's Guru Dan, and I'm Master Liam. So today, I'm going to show you some defences against left way headbutts. So the first one, if you're ever in the street and someone tries to headbutt you, you always need to have a toilet roll handy. As you can see here, so Danny's going to come in to try and headbutt me. Boom! Game over. No problem. Defence. Flat as a pancake, but no marks on me. Number two, if you're ever in the ring, defence lab, the shape one, okay? Again, Danny comes into headbutt, a block, make you kick his leg. Boom! Game over.
He gave me a good volley, and I think it looked pretty good. Made a nice little slapping sound. And then I were on the next day, like yesterday, I were on the running track as well, so it didn't help that. But yeah.
I was going to say, either you're a fantastic actor or Liam did put something into it.
Yeah, he did boot me, yeah.
Yeah, just while I mentioned acting there, you've been doing a wee bit of acting as well, have you not?
Yeah, I've actually, I got like a bit of a role in a film. So they wanted me to play, it's going to be like a TV pilot, and then they're either going to make it into a film, or they're going to make it into like a series. So, I went down and spoke to him, and I had to do like an improv scene. So they brought me into a room and they said, right, we want you to, obviously I'm not an actor. All these guys are trained actors, and they just said, listen, we want you to, sit at this table. You're going to pretend that you're like a gangster, and you're going to like convince this guy he's got to throw this fight. And there's no lines. You've just got, this is the scene, and you've just got to go. And I was like, all right, sweet. So I sat there, and like this guy walks in, and I just like, I just turned it on, and I just pretended that I was in that role. And like afterwards, they all stood up and started clapping, and they're like, wow, that were amazing. Like the guy comes in and sits down, and I was like, you're fucking sitting down, for stand back up. And he like looked at me as if I were being serious, and he was like, I didn't know if you were in character or if you were actually. And I made him like stand up and then ask to sit down, and everyone they loved it. They were going crazy at it. So they actually rewrote my part. So I was just going to play like I had a few lines. I was going to have a fight, and then I was going to die. That was kind of what was going to happen. No spoiler intended. But then they ended up after that. They ended up like rewriting the script, and they wrote me an actual part. So yeah, I had to go and act it out and learn all these lines and stuff, and it was really good. I enjoyed it. So hopefully that it becomes a series. I think they're pitching it to like Netflix and I think Amazon Prime have got something like Netflix kind of thing, aren't they? So
yeah.
So yeah, they're pitching it to them, and hopefully I get in this little series, which would be pretty cool.
How enjoyable was it, or even learning lines? You're getting in there, obviously a fighter, but there's professional actors there. Is there any nerves, or is it just really fun?
You know what? I enjoyed it, and I felt really at ease. And I was looking around, I'm looking at all these actors who are like, this is what they do, you know, they train for this, and they just look so nervous. And, you know, like I did a lot of stuff, like in just one take, I just kind of went with it. And there were a few really good moments. So there were a fight scene, and we got like this old garage in Doncaster, and we put old cars in it, you know, like old Fords and stuff like that, and we made it look really cool. We got everyone round, and it's like this bare knuckle fight scene, and there's like a scene where I walk into like this industrial unit, and you know, I just shove everyone out of the way, and I just take my shirt off, and I'm just like staring at this guy. And they were like, yeah, you know, it's going to take a few takes. We've got to get all these angles and stuff. And I'm like, right. And they said the camera's literally just going to be on you for the full thing. Like the camera's going to reverse, you're going to walk towards it, and we're just going to be like looking at you. And it's kind of like when you walk out at the UFC and you've got a camera in front of you and you've got to kind of keep up with it. It's sort of like that. So anyway, I walks in, the camera's following me. I'm just shoving people out of the way, just acting like a bit of a dick. And then I unbutton my shirt, take my shirt off, and then they said like, just focus on this spot next to the camera. There's like a spot next to the camera we want you to focus on when you're doing all this. And I met this guy who's an actor. You know, he's like an older guy. Plays a lot of like gangster, like old man sort of serious roles. And he was stood in the spot where I was looking. And he stood there and he started like looking at me. So I just used him as a point of reference, and I'm like staring at this guy. And then I'm supposed to be like acting really angry and stuff, which is not like me. I'm quite a chilled out person. But I start looking at this guy, and he starts like growling at me, and he's like pulling face at me. So I start like doing it back, and I'm taking my shirt off, and I'm just staring at this guy, and it just made this crazy atmosphere. And I'm just staring at him. And then when they called cut, he just ran over and grabbed me, and he was like, "Oh, that were amazing," you know. And that really helped me like get into that zone. And they literally said, "That's it, we've got it." You know, I did it in one take, and they were really impressed. So hopefully, I get in a big film. It's like,
so is it kind of safe to say you've caught the acting bug a bit?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not out there looking like some of my guys like Jay Furness and stuff. They're on these websites. They always end up extras. Like I'm watching Peaky Blinders. You know, I've only just started watching it, and then I noticed Jay's in the corner on one of the boxing scenes, and I'm like, no way! Like, how did you end up there? And he's been on like King Arthur and stuff. So I'm not really putting myself out there, but just through like a friend of a friend, I got recommended for this film just because they wanted a fight scene to happen, but they wanted like a real fighter in there who kind of looked like a fighter, you know, like I looked a bit bashed in or whatever, and they just wanted a bit of realism, like somebody who could actually fight, so they could sell it a bit more. So yeah, it was cool. I 100% I'd do it again. Obviously, I've been on Bargain Hunt as well, so you know I'm used to doing it.
It's like difference playing a fighter gangster type thing to Bargain Hunt. I've not seen your episode of Bargain Hunt. I just recently found out of that. That was what was that like on Bargain Hunt? I've got to know, because I don't picture you on Bargain Hunt. To be fair, it's not something you would imagine a fighter's going to go on, but.
I know, yeah. I like it. I like Bargain Hunt. So my dad, he was really into like antiques, buying and selling and stuff like that. So on a weekend, when I was younger, we'd go to like these big markets, and we'd like, you know, my dad would buy and sell stuff and that. So I just applied just for a laugh. Like my dad got cancer, and you know, just before he died, I'm like, fuck it, let's get on there. It's something to you know. And I thought, if I just put, you know, I'm a fighter. You know, I've been in the UFC. I thought definitely I'm going to end up on here. You know, they're going to read that and we're like, we want this guy. So luckily, they got in touch, and yeah, we went and did it. And I think I won 24 quid, which paid for the fuel.
Oh, well, it's an experience, but isn't it?
Yeah, it was a good experience and that, and only thing I'm gutted about is it wasn't David Dickinson then, it was that Tim Wonnacott, because I'd have loved to meet David Dickinson, but yeah, Tim Wannacott's a pretty cool guy. He's pretty big as well. I think he'd be decent at wrestling. He's got a good frame for it. I should have took him down.
Am I right in saying, just for reading interviews and stuff you've done, you sort of, in terms of stuff you get into, you seem to jump from thing to thing. Like I saw the interview, I think it was actually James sent me it, and you were talking about maybe one day you want to learn piano. Is that kind of what your personality's like? You just go out and think, I want to try something?
Yeah, I'm probably the most random person you'll ever like anybody who hangs around me for like Rico. I spend so much time with Rico now, and he'll tell you he's like, I'm the most random person. Like he literally walked into my house the other day, and I was learning to play Dr. Dre on piano. So I'm just like playing piano, like playing Dr. Dre, and he was just like, what the fuck is going off in here? You know, I'm playing like Dr. Dre. My little lad, he's like fucking swinging a samurai sword around. You know, it's just madness in this house. But
I saw you were
like it.
You were really putting Rico through the VO2 sessions on that scooter, weren't you?
Oh yeah. He was struggling on that little scooter.
And obviously, we were speaking a bit as well about gyms and stuff like that, and what the situation is. James, I'll bring you in on this. Obviously, so you guys have just opened up, right? And James, I think what day is it for up here? September
14th. 6 weeks still, man.
6 weeks. That's a long time. Yeah.
That means I think when we can officially open, we've been shut for 6 months almost to the day. I thought we were going to get to open maybe a week or two after England or Wales, but I don't know, 6 weeks. Fucking rubbish.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you know, we've been shut for quite a while. Obviously, we've been getting some fighters in and stuff, but we know without any fights, the fighters aren't making money, and you know, it's hard times for everyone. But I mean, hopefully now they've started some local lockdowns and stuff near us in Bradford. We're not too far from that district, you know, a couple of miles. So hopefully it doesn't spill over, because the gym's like busier than ever now. Everyone wants to train. I've got a massive waiting list for members. So yeah, hopefully we can keep going. Otherwise, we'll just have to do it illegally and underground.
And the other thing you've announced as well is you've sort of taken a bit of a step back for the gym. You're still focused on training fighters, but as you said there, it's Jay Furness. He's kind of assuming that head coach role for all the members of the gym. Would that be right?
Yeah, that's it. So I've brought Jay in. He's going to be the new head coach, and you know, Jay's like been my right hand man since I started AVT. It's nearly 9 years now I've been running it. So you know, it's time. You know, I've made a living out of it. I've been very lucky that I've been able to build it into a business, and I think it's time to sort of give Jay some of that now, and let him take over and let him, you know, get what he can from it, and let him work with, you know, some of the up and coming fighters. Because what I found is we had like a stable of fighters. We didn't really have many new people. Like we'd get like people coming from other gyms, like amateurs joining the team from other gyms, but we didn't really have many people sort of saying like, oh, you know, I want to be a fighter, you know, and taking them through the steps, you know. Like a massive sort of gap in between, like people just training and then all these amazing fighters, and nothing really in the middle. So hopefully this sort of like reset, you know, Jay can start building the new crop of fighters. And I'm going to be working with fighters still, but you know, I've really trimmed it down. I'll maybe work with 10 fighters, I think, going forward, because we've got 50 fighters at the gym. It's just too many. I can't corner every week. If they all fight once a year, that's every week of the year gone. So
I don't think people realise how much work goes into it being the head coach, man, especially when you must have one of the biggest fight teams in the whole of Britain.
Yeah.
We have about 20. I've trimmed my team down. I had 30 at one point, and I've trimmed it down to about 20. And then when I seen what you done, that kind of announcing Jay coming in as a head coach, it's actually something I've been thinking about for a long time. But I don't have I've not got somebody at this point in time like Jay to bring in, because I know you'll trust him. He's an excellent coach. He's been there, done that, and he'll do everything up to the standard that you kind of want, I think. And right now, I've got a guy that can do that with jiu-jitsu, but not MMA. So I think what you've done is like a it's like a natural progression, man. I was speaking to Trevor Whitman when we were away, and I think he'd got the big gym and everything and the massive fight team, and I think he almost had like a nervous breakdown, him, and he's came away from it and got a smaller gym, and now he just works with like a small group of fighters. But it's so fucking taxing working with fighters. They're like having, like, I've got a 2-year-old boy in the house, and the fighters is like looking after 2-year-old kids. And the time and energy it takes is so fucking demanding, man. So I think what you've done is cool, man. I'm probably going to emulate that at some point, as soon as I can find somebody like Jay to fucking come in and take care.
Yeah, that's it. It's finding the right people. So I've got Jay, he's running all like the adult stuff, and then I've got Tom Crosby, who's one of our pro fighters. Now his family business is a child minding business. So he's like, this, what he does is every day he just deals with people's kids. This is what he does. So he just brings a busload of kids to the gym. So I've given him that part of the business now, and he's just going to run with it and run all the kids stuff, and that's kind of his passion. So it's ideal, really. I'm lucky that I've got so many coaches. We've got about 20 coaches altogether, but some coaches will just take a single class. Some guys are a little bit more involved, but it's like Jay and Tom basically who are going to be running the gym for me. And then I'm just, I did a bit of an experiment, to be fair, because we've got so many fighters, and you'll always have certain fighters where, fighters are always cross-training, they're working with different people, but if they want me to be their head coach or their head coach, they need to like listen to what I'm saying. So if I'm saying, right, you need to, like, whatever it is, like, you need to do this session, you need to wrestle on this day every week. If they don't do that week in, week out, if they don't listen to your instructions outside of the fight, then what's the point of even cornering them and being there for the fight? So I did like a little experiment, and I got all the fighters and I gave them stuff to do. So we started off with like a running program. But it's like, we're going to do, this is our running program, yeah? It's going to be twice a week, and it's like a little sort of interval sprinting kind of program. And I want everyone to do it, and we're going to see where everyone's at. It's like I can get like a leaderboard, and we can do all this, and it's just something to do. So I put that in place, and I watched who actually did it. I watched who took note of what I said, and I could see clearly from like this leaderboard that we created who'd done because there were 6 sessions. And they rotated like every 3 weeks. So I could see who'd done all 6, who was repeating the sessions. And I just made a note of those people. And then the same for, like, our main sparring session is a Friday night. So I'm like, whatever happens in the week, whatever, you might be off hitting pads with some guy over here and training, grappling with this guy over here. But if you want to fight for us, you must turn up on Friday and spar. And then we can watch you. So then I'd make a note like, right, who's turning up? Who are these guys who I've told what to do is turning up for sparring? Are they here every week? Are they here when they've not got a fight to help some other guys with their sparring? And then I just made a note of all these people, and I just narrowed the team down just to those. So they're the guys who listen to me, turn up when I say. So they're the guys I'm gonna coach. So it was all a big experiment. So if you're one of my fighters and you're watching, you should have fucking turned up.
And surely that's going to be. Sorry, on you go, James. I'll let you.
They don't realise how you'll be noticing this now because you've got you've got a son and stuff, dude. But your time is so fucking precious. And then these guys turning up and they say all the right stuff. That I want to do this, I want to fight. They've got all the social media pages and athlete pages and Instagrams and all that shit. And then they're just wasting your time. And it gets to a stage where you're going to have to say to these people, like you're wasting my time, which is I've got a family, I've got stuff I need to do outside, I've got the rest of the fight team, I've got people want to join the fight team. It's like, you need to be so tough with them, man. I end up arguing with them. I don't like confrontation, but the only time I ever get in confrontation is when I'm working with fighters, and I'm either telling them, like, you're going to have to find somewhere else to train, or you're going to have to think about like refocusing on your career and whatever else. But it's so hard to deal with them, man. It's like, they're an absolute nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why it's like Jay's the head coach now. So there's going to be fighters who are doing this for a hobby. You've got a full-time job, it's just a hobby. They don't want to get to the UFC or whatever. They just want to have some fights, and it's just like, Sunday league football to them. So that's cool. You can be that guy. But right now, I don't want to spend my time coaching that guy, which sounds harsh, but at the end of the day, you got to do, you do what you want to do in life. And I just want to work with a smaller group of people and just and focus on them. So I'm lucky that now I can do that. I've built the business to a stage where I can step away and I can just focus on the bit I like to do. I don't want to teach, beginner classes. I don't want to do any of that anymore. I just want to focus on these 10 guys, and that's it. That's kind of my future is just there.
Yeah.
That's almost came for like just you putting the hours in for the last 10, 15 years, do they? Like, not even just like your fighting career and just like you're on the mat every fucking day. People don't realise that I'm still in that stage now, or before the lockdown, where I'm coaching in the morning from 9 o'clock to 1, then I'm back in again 5 to 10. I've got guys coming in for PTs to scheduling pads for fighters, and it's like you put in those hours and hours, and it's like you've earned a place now where you can do that. You can pick and choose who you work with. You can pick. It'll help your own training. It'll help you with your family time and stuff like that as well. And I think you get some gyms where you get guys trying to do that with foot putting the time in that you've put in. But I think because it's almost like you have served that apprenticeship and built everything to fuck all the way up. You'll be successful at that, I think, man. And the guys that are putting the time in and have got the same kind of work ethic that you've got are going to get the results for that. Like you're going to get more guys to the UFC or Bellator or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long road, and this lockdown, it were a good chance to change things. It's a good chance to like refocus the gym and make the changes. So yeah, it just all kind of fell into place.
Yeah. The other thing as well, obviously, Danny, you were out in Fight Island as James was as well. You were out there with Mark. We'll sort of come to that in a moment. But before we talk about that, there's something that happened on the flight, and I'll see if you twig here. And it looks like it must have been a very traumatic thing that happened to you. So I'm wondering if you've recovered from it. So you got a cheesecake with no base.
I know. Yeah.
Are you still emotionally struggling with that?
Yeah, I'm not happy. It kind of ruined the whole thing for me because I've never flown business class before like that. So I'm from Doncaster. I can't afford to get on bus around here. So we're there and everything. I had one of the best steaks. And I don't know how they cook a steak on a plane. Does anybody know? Because it was like medium rare, beautiful steak. Like, do they cook it up there? What? Like that was not a microwave fucking steak. This was literally like I would have paid to sit in a restaurant and eat this steak. It was beautiful. And then I got to the cheesecake and there was just no fucking even advertised it as a cheesecake in the little menu, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is like meant to be. And then when they brought it, we just had no biscuit base.
I like the base. I like the buttery biscuit base.
Just a massive letdown.
I think I had that exact same meal, to be fair. The steak was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was like some kind of yellow jelly fucking thing.
Yeah, that's it. It was just
no good.
But obviously, you were out there for Mark's fight. Mark was fighting Rafael Fizes. I may have fucked up his name, probably have, but it was a really, really tough fight, man. That guy was really, really good. What's your recollection of the fight and Mark's performance?
Yeah, I mean, Mark trained super hard for that. He's a real hard worker, one of the hardest working guys in the gym. And obviously, when we look at Rafael, he's a striker. For all of his fights, he doesn't engage. Like when he clinches, everything he does, he's just trying to break away from the clinch. Even if he takes somebody down, he takes them down and then immediately backs out. He doesn't try and hold them down or whatever. So that first round was just kind of like Mark got caught underneath and he just held him down. And I think Mark just in his head had not. And it's stuff we'd worked on, like getting up from the half guard is something that Mark has. He ends up there in fights and it's something we've worked on, but. Yeah, I think that he just wasn't in his head prepared. He was just expecting a kickboxing fight, basically. So, but he did some stuff that we worked on. Like Rafael's got a good front headlock. He always used that front headlock, and Mark escaped that 3 or 4 times, just using like some simple drills that we did. So that it was good to see that in action. But yeah, he was a super tough striker, and for me, Mark just didn't get into his. When Mark's in his little flow, and he's moving, he's very hard to hit, and he's very unorthodox. And for me, he just set his feet a little bit too much. And the problem with Mark is early on in his career, he banged a lot of people out with one shot. And when you do that, it stays in your head. So, he stood there in the middle of the cage and he's just trying to hit that one shot to end the fight. And unfortunately, whenever you try to end the fight, it doesn't usually work. It just tends to happen by accident. So, And I think as he got further into the fight, like for me, he won the third round. And one judge had it all 3 to Rafael, but 2 of the judges had it, I think, 2 to 1. For me, he won that third round, and that's when he starts. And we even see this in the gym. Like as the sparring progresses, he gets much better. And I think as he gets physically tireder, because he's a super athlete, he has to relax more. When he relaxes, that's when he actually flows better and puts stuff together better. So for me, that's what it came down to is just time. If he had another 2 rounds, he'd have won.
That's it. And the other thing, sorry, on you go, James.
I've seen that exact same, dude. I thought the fight never played out the way I thought it would. And then I thought Mark won the third round. It looked like he had him figured out. It was almost like by the time it got to round 3, he was like, this is all this guy's got, the body kicks and whatever. And it looked like he'd sussed them out. And kind of, I scored the third round to him as well. And that thing you're saying there about him, when he was banging on the Bama scene, he was one punching everybody and stuff like that. It's quite a common thing where kind of guys fall in love with their power a wee bit and they just start looking for that. It's such a weird. It's like a kind of blessing in disguise when they don't knock guys out on the way up sometimes, and eventually that comes. But he's got that fucking one punch bomb. Like I was at the Ken Musa fight and stuff like that, and he's always going to have that. But I thought Mark looked good, man, as well. I thought he looked. I can remember when he went to ATT. And kind of watching, thinking, I wonder what he'll be like there. And you could see he wasn't the same at American Top Team. And then when he came back, and I seen he'd been working with you and working with Liam Harrison and stuff, I was like, this will be good for him. And you can almost draw a line in his performances for the time at ATT to when he came back with you guys, I think.
Yeah, definitely. He came back and he's more comfortable at home. Like, in America, he's away from his family, he's away from his kids. He's basically stuck there. Whereas when he's at home, he can do what he wants, and he's a lot more comfortable. And it's something we always say in the gym, and a lot of gyms will say this. But a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter, and that's the same with Scott Askham. There's a funny photo somewhere of me in the corner with Scott, and we're just like laughing at each other in the middle of a fight, and it's like, yeah, once you get in that zone and you're actually happy and you're enjoying what you do, you're enjoying your work, then I think that's a big turning point as a fighter. And Mark said when he's in America and stuff, he just weren't enjoying it. He was doing it, and he trains hard and stuff, but he just weren't enjoying the process. And I think that's a massive thing. Like I've always just enjoyed it. I enjoy training. I probably enjoy fighting more than I enjoy training. Like I just enjoy it. Like when I don't enjoy confrontation, but when fights kick off in the street and stuff, I get like giddy. I get like, oh, this is excitement. I like this. I get that. I like that tension. I think from being younger. From where I am, you go into like the local pubs or whatever. I remember going out like 15 years old, and you could literally feel the atmosphere in the pub. Like you knew that at the end of the night, there's going to be bodies laid out on the floor. And I don't know, there was just something about that it just stayed with me. And I just enjoy when you just look around in the changing room when you're getting ready to fight, and you just look around, you can see all these nerves and these people like oh. Doubting themselves, or maybe they're just sitting corner listening to music and that. I'm just like laughing and smiling, and I'm like, this is it. This is what we do. This is, it's weird, and I think that carries over to a lot of my fighters. Like a lot of the fighters, they love having me in the corner just because I bring that I make it fun. Although it's it's serious, and we're a serious gym. We're there to win. We're not there just to make up the numbers. But we try and have fun and enjoy it as well.
Do you feel that then just relaxes fighters a bit more, just takes the tension away a wee bit as they're walking out there?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's really important to fighters are going to get nervous and stuff. I think it's almost a negative thing that when I used to fight, I didn't really get nerves. I used to fight that often, and one day I'd have an MMA fight, and then 3 weeks later I'd be in a fucking unlicensed boxing tournament somewhere, and I just do these mad things, and it just kind of got to the stage where the nerves just didn't kick in, and it probably, like most of my fights, if it went, I usually lose unless I beat him in the first round, I'm probably going to lose the first round. It's that kind of, I need to like wake up. So sometimes it's a negative, but most people, 90% of people, like super nervous. They've got like anxiety. They're ready to fight, but they're super nervous. They need to calm down. So I just sort of bring that bit of, just help them relax and bring them down a little bit. And I think it really helps, get in the zone. Because if you want to be, I'm really into like learning about flow state and stuff like that. And I'm working a lot with John Wattam, who's like my Ironman coach now. And I've known him for all my career. And I always felt like really good when I'm around him and stuff. And he's taught me a lot about like the mind and how that works with flow state and stuff. It's very hard to be in a flow state when you're in a heightened state of like anxiety. To be in flow state, you need to be almost relaxed in the middle of a fight, which is pretty tough to do. But I'm really interested in that kind of stuff now.
The other thing is obviously you're still an active fighter. You've still got some stuff you want to do. I think a few of the things you listed is obviously with fighting in Japan and fighting a Gracie. Is that the top of the list?
Yeah, I'd love to fight in Japan. Fighting a Gracie obviously probably won't happen, but just fighting in Japan it'd be amazing. That's something I've always wanted to do. Just the atmosphere and stuff. Yeah, it's just, I think all martial artists should be, should want to go out there and do that. I fought in Macau, but for the UFC, but in China. But yeah, Japan's the one. I think I'd love to fight there. And then Vale Tudo as well. My gym, Asylum Vale Tudo. I've got Vale Tudo on my fists. So yeah, I need to. I've had loads of street fights, but an actual organised Vale Tudo fight would be a good one. So yeah,
we'll see. QFC. What about getting on the QFC this weekend?
QFC, yeah. So Darren Moffat actually sent me a message like, I need one of your lads to fight, but they have to wear a blindfold. But the guy's fighting is like shit. The guy's fighting shit, but like your guy will definitely win, but he's just got to wear a blindfold.
What the fuck? What? See, when I hear QFC, I think of the old Brave group. I don't know if he's with QFC.
QFX, that is.
Fuck, bastard.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I can't stop watching that QFC. Like, every Saturday, 4 o'clock.
I'm actually thinking about sponsoring it because, they're getting so many views now. It's fucking crazy. It's going to be a big one on Saturday as well. I've seen the venue. It's an underground car park. It's going to look sick. It's going to look like fire. So yeah, look forward to that. But the only problem with that is like, I'm surprised the police aren't fucking been on his case, because he's not making any money out of it. Let's be right. Like there's, it's not like he's selling pay-per-views. He's literally filming it on his phone like this.
It's running out of battery. They're going, there's 9% left. There's 6 fights. 9% left.
Yeah,
and then he starts trying to raffle off the ring girl last week. He's like, the ring girl is available.
But if you got that pay-per-view, honestly, you'd smash it.
There's 9,000 people watching it at one point on Saturday. It's like, fucking hell.
That's crazy. It's people are obviously enjoying it. So I mean, as long as nobody's getting seriously hurt, It's all fun and games, man.
That's the thing. It's all fun. Like, I'm thinking this, like, I'm literally watching it. You know, Doolan's on there. I see his name pop up. There's all these other fighters, and I'm thinking, we're watching it, we're sharing it, we're laughing about it. But if one of these fuckers dies, we're all just like, delete. We're not sharing that anymore. You know, we weren't promoting it. We do not in any way support QFC. Just so you know, but we will watch it if it's on.
It's interesting anyway. I saw what's happening with this mullet as well, Danny. Is this reappearing? I just noticed when you turned round there, you in the process of bringing it back.
Yeah, I just think if I have a Vale Tudo fight, I need to have a sick mullet, don't I? That's like kind of my trademark from back in the day. So it's like, you know, like a Dothraki. Like when a Dothraki loses a fight, he cuts all his hair. That, like, when I retired, I just sort of cut it off. But now I'm making a bit of a semi-comeback. I thought I'll just start to grow it again. And then when I start growing it a bit, people are like, "Oh, what the fuck are you growing a mullet for? You look stupid." And then it just motivates me more just to grow.
You have to grow it.
There was a stage where I'm pretty sure about like I think I was about maybe 23, 24 when everybody seemed to have them. Up here anyway, they just everybody was rocking them, shaved in it aside, and it was a thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I like, see, if everybody had them, then I wouldn't have it. I'd have something different. I like to be different.
Well, that's true.
If they come into fashion, I'll just cut it back off.
Go with something else.
Yeah, I'll go with something else. I'll maybe do that thing, you know, where people used to shave their head and just leave like a fringe.
Aye.
Did you ever have that?
Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Mind that, Ronaldo.
I'll maybe bring that back.
There's guys up here perming that thing at the front, man. They'd have like bald teeth with this fucking perm fringing at the front.
Aye, that seems to be the thing for a lot of the younger ones. Because Luke Shanks was rocking a perm, is he not?
He was definitely curling that, I think.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. Looks definitely that.
I might do that. I might perm my mullet. I might get a big perm mullet. That looks pretty sweet.
Headline QFC.
Yeah. I mean, that's QFC calls out for a mullet, man. It feels like it's a place to have it.
Yeah.
The other thing as well, Danny, is obviously you're still fighting. You've obviously got a gym, acting, but you're obviously involved in Cage Steel as well, which is a show I really enjoy. I've been dying to get down into a Cage Steel, just not managed it yet. But you're matchmaking in there. James, you've spoken in the past about matchmaking and how tricky it can be. Do you enjoy that, Danny?
I wouldn't say I enjoy it. I enjoy watching the fights when they happen, but matchmaking's a tough job. And I'm lucky that on my side of it, I've got all my fighters, and I can literally just tell them that you're fighting, and this is who you've got, and that's it. They'll just turn up and fight. So, but there's so many people out there, like so many gyms, they just don't want to fight. They just want, you know, they're literally asking. It's literally gyms versus QFC fighters. That's where we're at. So, you know, just people. Like, if I've got a first timer, listen, chuck them in with like a journeyman or whatever. Just get maybe they've got low confidence, just get them in there. But you know, if they're decent, you know, then they just need to fight. And I really want to put on like a tournament, like, you know, you've got like the IMAF tournaments and stuff. Put on some more like regional kind of IMAF style tournaments. So I did one like 2 years ago. I called it like the Yorkshire MMA Championships, and we had 4-man tournaments at every weight, and that worked out pretty good, you know. So people fought twice in the same night, and everyone had shin pads, rash guards. You know, I think it's a really good way to do it. You know, kind of like the amateur boxing way. You know, good. I think so. You can see that. You know, these guys have got shin pads on and rash guards. They're amateurs, right? These guys are, you know, not got shin pads on and they're bare chested. These are pros, you know. So you can see the difference because, from like as a fan, if you just turn up to a show, you know, you wouldn't know who's a pro and who's an amateur. You just think everybody's like making loads of money and they're all pro fighters, you know. So I think it'd be good for the sport if we could separate it a little bit and you know, have like a clear amateur division that you could see, that you could police a little bit better as well. You know, have like everybody has like a yearly medical and do all that kind of business for it, and just use like the England boxing, like the England boxing structure that they've got here. You know, we could just clone that and have it for MMA, and we could all have our own little associations. But there's so many. Obviously, with MMA, it's very political, and there's a lot of different people want to start their own organisations and stuff. But who knows? I'm not the guy to set that up. I don't want an association. I just want to turn up and fight.
And at Cage Tale as well, the show's it's well produced. Obviously, a lot of good guys coming through it. Most notably, a guy that's fought on is Mohamed Mokaev, who just recently won his debut and he's rescheduled to fight again. So, guy's so good. There was a lot of hype behind him. But what do you make of Mohamed Mokaev? He looks like one that's going to go all the way.
Yeah, so I know Mokaev pretty well. So I actually cornered him in his when he won the IMAF World and the Europeans. I were actually in his corner. He's coached by Dean Garnett, who was a fantastic coach. And he's doing some big things now, bringing in these coaching qualifications and stuff. And he's using the UK sport model. He's taught me so much about coaching. Amazing. So he's in really good hands with Dean. And Mo's just a really hard worker. We actually stayed together when we was in Italy. He stayed with me and Louis Lee Scott in like a little caravan. And he was up early every morning. He made us breakfast and that. It's like, He just loves it, He loves it, and he'll go far. He's got a really good attitude. I know there's a lot of like shit talking and that goes off in MMA, and you see a lot of that going off between him and other fighters and stuff. But he backs up everything he says, and he's a really good guy. I think he'll do really well. Obviously, he's got a big following. He's just like a mini Khabib, He's that kind of guy. So, but he's just got to be careful. He's 1-0 as a pro now. He just needs to slowly just work his way up the ranks and not. Everyone will be wanting to throw him to the lions. But he's still a young kid at the end of the day, and he needs to just step up one at a time.
What's happening with the other kid you mentioned there, the Lewis Lee Scott? Looks like a super talent as well. What's happening with that kid?
Yeah, he's a little beast. So he made his pro debut, and we're just looking to build him up from there. But he trains does his Thai boxing with Liam Harrison. He's a savage. Like, and we've got a really good group now at the gym of like bantams. We've got like 6-7 bantams, all really good for sparring for each other. So, he's a sick striker, but his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu are really underrated. He's doing really well with that. Like in the IMAF, beating a lot of guys by submission. So, got like good darces, arm triangles. So, it's about we're just constantly working on everything with him really, and just building him up. Like he's got a big future. He's got a massive following. Off the back of like training with Liam, and he's a DJ now as well. So he's got like I actually MC'd and he DJ'd at a rave recently. Pretty fun. Another random, when I talk about these random things, at like 4:00 in the morning on an industrial estate in Leeds, Louis were DJing and I were MCing. Yeah, crazy.
All fun times. So we won't keep you too much longer, Danny. James, have you got anything else you want to come in with?
Just about going back on the Defence Lab stuff. What are you going to do if the guys turn up at your house? Like, 'cause I remember, do you remember Carol Tanswell had some trouble with the Systema guys, mind? He kind of gate crashed a demonstration at Seni one year at a martial arts expo. Yeah. And they were looking for somebody to come out the crowd, and he was going to give him a knife, and this Russian guy in all the combat gear was going to disarm him. And I think Carol's volunteer jumped out, grabbed the knife, and the guy couldn't get the knife off him. But I'm pretty sure Carol was getting emails off the random Russian guys like, "We're going to find you, motherfucker," and all this you've dishonoured us. What are you going to do when these defence lab guys turn up at the house or the gym, man?
Yeah, so
that's why the swords are.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just ready to go. Bam. The highest ranking graded guy in defence lab has a gym in Goole, which is literally 2 villages away from me. So I was gonna just like turn up one day and just pretend I'm like a beginner and jump in his class. But yeah, it's fucking crazy what they're doing. And you're talking about that, like these guys were actually instrumental in bringing jiu-jitsu to the UK. So like Andy Norman, who runs Defence Lab, he actually brought Chris Houghton, who I'm a 2nd degree black belt under. He brought him to the UK for the first time. Like, so in a way, I owe Defence Lab my black belt in a roundabout way. You know, so it's just crazy. Like he brought like this guy over. You know, pioneered a lot of BJJ in the UK. But then I think what happens is when you get exposed to like real martial arts, like if people argue about martial arts today, just watch UFC 1. You know, simple as that. It happened fucking 30 years ago. We sorted it out 30 years ago. Like, just watch UFC 1, and there you go. Like, that's the answer. But I think when you're exposed to that, when you're exposed to like jiu-jitsu, Thai boxing, like real martial arts, you can either throw away everything you've done in the past. So, you know, say you've been doing like some kind of weird kung fu or something that's useless. You can either like say, right, let's throw that away. And, you know, maybe I've wasted like 10 years on that, but there might be some things that are good that I can take from that. And then I can start doing this real shit. Or what I can do is ignore this real shit and I can go further into this rabbit hole of like
shit.
Yeah, I can just dive into this hole of shit and I can use the get out clause of self-defense. Anybody, for me, when you start advertising self-defense, that's like a red flag straight away. So anybody who's like, what we do is self-defense, it's like, you got to be careful there because if like I used to teach bits of self-defense and stuff, but now I'm thinking of actually doing a self-defense course, putting it online. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find like one of the top sprinters in the country and I'm just going to get him to write a training program and then I'm just going to call it Danny's Self-Defense and I'm just going to sell it to people because that's what you should be doing. Like if you really want to not get filled in on the street, you need to just be able to run faster than everybody else. And that is it. That is as simple as it is. Like, the people who get filled in on the street are the people who choose to stand there and like, you know, argue back or whatever. Like, if you really don't want to get hurt, run as fast as you can or get in the fetal position and just pray nobody stabs you because fighting on the street is not... Like, learning self-defense is almost bad for you because you think, oh, fucking hell, you know, this big guy who's coming at me, I can take him. I can disarm this knife from him. And then next thing, you're full of holes. Like, if somebody really, really wants to stab you, they will stab you. I've been held up with a knife on 2 occasions. So once we're at a cash machine, so I'm at a cash machine and I turn around, this guy's got a knife and I was like, fuck's sake. And he's like looking at me and I could see he was scared. Like, he had this knife, but there's no way he was going to stab me. Like, he was scared shitless. So I just toe poke. I had fucking like rock ports on or some shit like that. So I just toe poked the fucking knife out of his hand. And then he was just like, oh, fuck. And I just ran him straight through a car, like into a car window. But like, there was no way you were going to stab me with that. Like, if you were like crazy and acting really erratic, you know, and like he's doing this with a knife, I would have thought, fuck. And I probably would have ran. But like, I read the situation. He was stood there and he was like looking at me like, give me your money. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, this guy's not going to stab me. So, you know, it's cool to attack him. But yeah, you've got to realise that, you know, I could go on for ages about self-defense, but there's so much shit out there, like, that it's dangerous. Like, it really is. Like, somebody asked me recently, oh, you know, would you teach like a seminar, you know, would you do like a women's self-defense seminar, you know, teach women to protect themselves and that, and I thought, that's a very fucking noble thing to do, you know, teach women how to protect themselves. And then I thought, I don't want to be responsible for a big group of women getting filled in because they get this like you know, martial arts is great for like confidence, you know, and just being a confident person will stop you being attacked on the street. That's like a huge thing. Like, don't walk around with your head down and your hands in your pockets. Like, just be aware. Like, be confident and be aware of your surroundings. But when you start teaching people, oh, you know, if a guy grabs you like this, you know, you just do this little wrist lock or whatever. You know, if I grab hold of you and you try and fucking wrist lock me, I'm just going to punch you in the face as hard as I can. It's going to piss me off more. Like, you do not want to, someone who really wants to hurt you, you don't want to do that. You know, obviously there's a life and death scenario where you're going to fight for your life, but, you know, just stick your fingers in their eyes, bite them as hard as you can, kick them in the balls. You don't really need to go to class to learn that. You know, you just need to, we've got it. Those instincts are already in you, you know, they're inside somewhere. You just got to tap into them. But yeah, for me, the self-defense side of martial arts is a little bit of it's just a get out clause of like, we train shit and we don't dare prove it in a real fight, so we're just going to call it self-defense.
Yeah.
That's kind of the get out clause.
Is that the difference between MMA and self-defense? So for people, MMA is very humbling, especially new people that come in, and you find out very quickly when you just start that you actually really know how to fight.
Yeah, I mean, and what you've got to not get clouded in your head as well is you get these people doing MMA and then think they can fight on the street and like, oh yeah, I'm an MMA. Like, MMA is great for one-on-one, but like, fuck me, I've been in fights where there's like maybe 20 guys fighting against us, you know, and there's weapons involved, and you cannot prepare for that shit. Like, you know, when you've got multiple people, like I remember being in mount on one guy and punching him, and someone just ran and just volleyed me inside the head. Luckily, he didn't knock me out, but I was like, fucking hell, like, I need to not ever mount anyone in a street fight again, because you just can't, like, you have to look at MMA and think, right, like, if this were a street fight, like, what would really be happening? Like, Chris Houghton has it perfect. He's like, you practice the art, you train in the sport, and you think street. Yeah, so all you got to do is think about it, like, right, I'm in a street fight, I've got a guy in a clinch. Now what do? Do I take him down and lay on top of him so all his mates can kick me in the head? Or do I just use him as a fucking human shield and get ready to fucking run? You know, it's simple, but you just got to think that. You don't need to train it. You just sit and you just think. When you're training, you just think, would this work in the street? You can just pretty much weigh it up. So that's kind of my thing on self-defense and street fighting. But yeah, a lot of people think, oh, I do MMA, so I'll be sound in street, and then they get filled in by 3 guys at once. You got to separate the two.
There was something else as well. Just last one for me, Danny. Obviously, Rico Franco's got a big fight coming up against Jimmy Sweeney, but I'd spoke to you off camera about how a lot of MMA fighters seem to adapt really well to bare knuckle, where some traditional boxers aren't doing as well. Now, you did mention you had a theory on this, so I'd love to hear that theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple when you think about it. So, glove boxing, you know, I've boxed as a professional in boxing, and you know, I trained in pro boxing gyms and stuff. And style wise, it's very different to MMA. Like, they look at MMA strikers. They look at, like, let's say Nick Diaz. Yeah, I remember saying to my boxing coach, "Look at this guy, Nick Diaz, best boxing in MMA." He looked at him and he was like, "That's fucking shit. That's like the worst fucking boxing I've ever seen. He throws arm punches. He don't turn his body. You know, he's got his hands out here. He's shit. That's shit. That's the worst boxing I've ever seen." And like, you know, you go into a boxing gym, everything's like tight like this. It's a lot of like hip rotation, turning your feet. And in MMA, we're pretty bad at that. We don't do that. So, but for bare knuckle, I think that MMA style of not turn your feet, and because for bare knuckle, you don't, like in boxing, you've got a big pad on your fist, yeah? So you need to turn your entire body. You need to rotate so hard so that lands, because they're blocking with this big pad as well. So the force you've got to create has to be much higher, much more force created. Whereas bare knuckle, there's lots of gaps, yeah? So first thing is there's not a big pad blocking it. I can get through that gap. And then there's no pad on my hand either. So I only have to hit you with like an arm shot and you're knocked out. So you don't need to turn your feet as much. You can just throw arm punches. And with the blocking, you can't shell up and just block. You have to parry more, catch more, much like MMA, obviously with 4-ounce gloves on, your hands are open and it's a little bit more, you're catching punches, you're parrying a little bit more, the distance is a little bit different. In boxing, we can get really close to each other and just be like this. But in MMA, there's a little bit more reach and a little bit more distance. And you can see this with Jimmy Sweeney because he's got that style anyway. He you know, from amateur boxing or whatever, and then he's transitioned over and he's got like this open hand style, which is perfect, which is what you would see a similar style to that in MMA, wouldn't you? People with their hands open, moving their hands around. And so that's why I think that MMA style boxing is actually better for bare knuckle than pure boxing, just because of the open hands, the catching of punches. And although in MMA we're shit at boxing because we throw arm punches and we don't turn, because obviously there's no point on a left hook in MMA turning your front leg all the way over, because if you miss, you just get leg kicked or you get taken down because it's going to put you so bad out of position. So you can throw an arm punch in MMA, and if it lands, you know, you've only got 4-ounce glove on, you can still knock someone out. So I think that's where the crossover is. Obviously, there is a benefit to being a very good boxer, but I think the MMA style of boxing is much more suited to bare knuckle than glove traditional boxing. And that's kind of, my theory.
It's interesting, man. If you go back and look at like old black and white footage of boxers for like the early 1900s and stuff like that, so they've not been using gloves that long. Like I'll use Jack Johnson, but their style's more like what you're talking about. It's longer guards and parrying and catching shots more, and it's like almost like the years and years of using the gloves has evolved the sport in a way that looks completely different from what we were doing in MMA and then what you're seeing the bare knuckle boxing guys doing. Like if you look at that old black and white footage, it looks more like how some of the MMA guys, it looks a bit cruder to the professional boxers and stuff like that, but it's so much more functional for those sports.
Yeah, definitely. Because obviously that's how boxing started. It was bare knuckle. I think in the ancient Greek Olympics, they actually wore metal. They had metal on their hands as well, which made it fucking 10 times worse. So think if you've got a metal glove on, you only need to do that, and the guy's gonna, you know, you're gonna really hurt the guy. So, but I think that, and it's the same with everything. It's kind of like why I don't like jiu-jitsu now in a gi, because it's evolved into its own sport where it doesn't, like back in the day, you know, 20 years ago, you get a black belt from Brazil, come over, he takes his gi off and he can have an MMA fight. He's never trained in MMA, but he can have an MMA fight because it was so similar back then. But now, you know, most of the black belts are, you know, they develop the games based on, you know, grips and things like that are so far away from real fighting that. And it's cool if you want to do that, you know. It's a really good sport and stuff, but that's what it is. It's a sport, and it's, you know, you've got to, again, like I was saying with the MMA and street fighting thing, you got to look at it. And when you train in jiu-jitsu, you got to think, will this work in MMA? Like what I'm doing now, like if I'm training a fighter, you know, I'm not going to sit there doing loads of fucking lapel shit. Like sometimes fighters will throw a gi on and they'll train or whatever, but it's important not to get too much down that rabbit hole of focusing on doing, you know, lapel shit, and, you know, when really they just need to, you know, do basics. No gi basics is kind of the key.
Yeah. And just we're obviously talking, you mentioned Rico there. Obviously, Rico's get the fight, the rematch with Jimmy Sweeney coming up. We had Jimmy on, and he kind of said that he felt in that first fight he had issues with the weight cut, and he didn't get in there feeling 100%. So he feels this time, when he steps in, Rico's going to get a surprise. Just quickly, I don't want your take on that. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, so Rico's always improving, you know. Whereas for me, Jimmy is like, Jimmy's boxing is from when he was younger. Yeah, he was a really skilled amateur boxer, and then he had some time off. Then he got into bare knuckle. So I think for me, skill wise, he's not really improving. He's got a really high skill level, and then when he fights, what he does is he trains to make weight. Basically, trains to make weight, and then fights. Whereas with Rico, his weight's good. He's always improving. We're bringing better sparring in for him. He's sparring with, amateur champions, professional boxers. He's sparring with all these people. And so he's constantly improving. His fitness will not be matched. I'm telling you now, like the pace he can set is unbelievable. And so, we're expecting we always expect, a better Jimmy coming into this second fight. But I think that being in that first fight, Rico knows what he's about now, and I think Rico learned so much from that fight, just from being in front of him, that with that in his head and the game plan, the fitness, everything else, I think that Jimmy might be coming in feeling a bit fresher and feel better, but Rico's going to be coming in, twice the animal he were in that first fight as well. So. For me, I can see something similar happening. I can see Rico like cutting him open and stuff, and I can see it being a very tough fight. But obviously, I see Rico winning again, and hopefully in a bit more of a decisive fashion, because you're obviously getting all these people saying, "Oh yeah, it was just a doctor stopping the fight." But end of the day, as soon as we see that cut, I'm like, Rico, just punch that cut. His lips, bro. We just keep punching it. Blood spraying everywhere. It's like. It's the hurt business, in it, and you've got to, if you see a weakness, you've got to try and exploit it. And in the middle of a fight, if someone's got a big cut on them, and you're in a world title fight, tell me a man who ain't going to punch that cut.
How do you
do it?
How do you change up the training for a bare knuckle fight? I've never coached anybody bare knuckle, but I asked Artem Lobov when he was on. He was just after the Malignaggi fight. And he was basically saying he'd done shorter rounds, but he threw more punches. He's like, I want to make sure I can throw fucking constant for 2 minutes. I think he says he was hitting in MMA gloves and stuff like that. I don't think he was actually doing a lot of stuff. Mitt work, bare with his hands not covered. But it must be a challenge, man, just training for that. And then even the sparring, he just using MMA gloves and stuff like that to spar.
So we still use boxing gloves for a lot of it, just because Rico's hands are like, obviously when he's fighting all the time, they're getting smashed to pieces. I mean, when he fought Conor Tierney, he'd broken his right hand. So we literally did the full camp. All we did was just like jab, left hook. We just worked left hand only. So we went into that fight, really one-handed, and then that's the famous knockout where he hits him with a left hook and sparks him. Like so. So we have to wear gloves just to protect his hands, but then we will do for certain sessions. We'll switch to MMA gloves and we'll just work that. But for me, it's more like the style, like you were saying about Artem wants to throw loads of punches. For me, kind of the opposite of that. You want to do more with less punches. So we want to be more like precision punching, very smart way. You're not wasting loads of shots, because if you just throw like. And Rico did this in his early bare knuckle fights. He went in there and just threw loads of shots, got the win. But afterwards, he's like, fucked, he can't train, his hands are smashed in. So we try and be a little bit more precise and a little bit more like thoughtful about what we're throwing, when we're throwing it. It's like, I know Jimmy Sweeney, he don't like throwing body shots. He thinks like body shots are no good for bare knuckle because of like hitting elbows and stuff. But, we think that body shots are a really good idea, but you've got to throw them at the right time. You can't just start winging body shots in. For me, the combinations are shorter. Like, you're not going to be doing like 10 punch combinations. You're not staying in the pocket too much. It's a little bit more distance management, staying out of range. It's just a little bit of a different game. But, I'm lucky that we've got a few guys, like I fought bare knuckle. We've got a few other guys who fought bare knuckle in the gym. And, we've sort of got a little style going, if you like. We know what we're looking at. We know what we're working with. We've got guys who, I've got one guy who actually beat Jimmy in a fight before, gloved. And he's got a really good style. like a very awkward style. So we use him for a lot of sparring, and I've got some other guys as well who sort of emulate what Jimmy does, and like there's a couple of guys in the gym who are so obsessed with boxing, and they literally just watch all Jimmy's fights. Other fighters too, but as soon as Rico's fighting Jimmy, they watched all of his fights, and they're in the gym like, this is what he does, and they can get in the ring and they can emulate that. So I owe them massively because they really helped bring Rico on through this training, and it's good. Like I say, it's a completely different style, and it's new. It's pretty new, isn't it? Like everyone wants to watch it because it's something different, and I think it'll develop into its own style. You'll have more of that sort of Diaz style, like MMA style of boxing. Like pro boxers hate it, don't they? All the boxing coaches hate BKB. So.
Listen, the public don't know it. It really has blew up out of nowhere, and people are enjoying it, man. And it's fun. People are certainly enjoying it, and
it's because it looks like it's run well. They've got doctors. It's run like any professional event, But because there's no gloves, it's like it looks illegal. It's like when I first ever when I first saw a cage, like a real fight in a cage, when I first saw it, I had this feeling in my stomach like, this shouldn't be happening. This is wrong. Yeah. This is like, why aren't the police here? And it felt like I was part of something that shouldn't be happening, like some kind of underground thing. But obviously it won't. And now, whatever, I'm in the corner at the UFC or I'm at a show, and I'm sure, Doolin, you feel like this. It's just like another day. Like for me, walking into a room with a cage with guys fighting, it's just normal. Whereas your average person on the street, if you took them out of there and put them in the corner of the UFC, they'd be like, what? It's crazy. It's madness. It'd be overwhelming. And I think that's how I feel now at BKB. I go there and I'm like, this is like some kind of underground shit. There's all these guys fighting, no gloves. It's like, this is so raw and like,
QFC.
It's got that vibe.
It reminds me of that Jean-Claude Van Damme film. What was it called? AWOL.
Blood. Oh, yeah.
AWOL, remember that one? They're fighting in parking lots and that. And if it's another avenue for fighters to make money, it's that's a bonus. If guys like Rico could get it and make some money in there and fight and entertain people, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the good thing for Rico is what it's done is it's boosted him. He's BKB world champion. He's got a massive following now. And then, he's, in pro MMA, his record 6-4, which is like, a good average record. But now he can go back to MMA and he can build on that with the following he's got. If I get him to 10-4, we can look at a Bellator or something like that. And I think the character that he is like a Diaz brother, So I think something like Bellator would be perfect for him, because they want them kind of characters, don't they? And I think that'll be like an ideal, for me, that's like, and I've spoken to him about this, that's like the ideal platform for him. Because
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool he's going that way, dude, because like, you're getting all these MMA guys now jumping for MMA to bare knuckle, and their name value and stuff for MMA is getting them big bare knuckle fights and purses, where Rico can go the other way about. You think, like, every promotion is going to want to sign some bare knuckle boxing champion. You've seen it with Kimbo and stuff like that. And the fact that he beat Jimmy Sweeney, like most guys who don't even know a lot about bare knuckle know who he is going to like push him over. It'll be cool to see him like coming back to MMA off of the back of that, I think.
Yeah, I think since he's been doing bare knuckle, like the first bare knuckle fight he did, he just sort of jumped in and just had a go. And then the second one, kind of similar, he just jumped in and got stuck in. And then when he sort of got into this tournament, that's when things started changing. And he was like, right, well, if I win this tournament, I get 10 grand. And I ain't got, Rico, he relies a lot on sponsors and stuff. And, he's training all the time. So it's like, I need this 10 grand. So then he changed everything. He went from being this guy who just, takes random fights and just will fight anyone. Now it's like, right, I need to focus on this one guy and I need to really structure my training. And then, so that tournament made him so much better. And then obviously now he's fighting Jimmy and, he's getting good purses and stuff. And he's like, now he can transfer that mindset back to MMA. And hopefully make some money in MMA as well. Because he can't do BKB forever, you know, his face will get smashed in, his hands are going to be smashed in. The longevity in BKB is not there, but he can certainly make a massive name for himself and then, you know, go back to MMA. He could go to glove boxing as well. That's another thing. You know, we've trained in pro boxing gyms, Doncaster, and you know, it's like fucking hell. Rico's selling 120 tickets in the O2 when he's from up here. It's like, imagine if he fights local, he's selling 250 tickets. It's a boxing promoter's dream. So there's no reason why he couldn't be a glove fighter as well, you know, and go into the glove pro game. And, you know, there's so many avenues, you know, what's opened up for him because of this. Whereas like Jimmy Sweeney now, he'll probably fight Rico, you know, maybe 1 or 2 more fights and he'll probably, that'll be him done, you know, he'll retire. Whereas for Rico, this is like the springboard on the bigger things.
Brilliant. Well, James, have you got anything else before we let Danny get out of here?
Nah, I'm good, man. Good.
No, that's well, listen, Danny, thanks for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure having you on. It's been fun, man. And look, keep doing the videos and that, mate. They're awesome. I really enjoyed them. And I quite like the fun poking at Defence Lab. It's fun. And obviously, best of luck going forward with the gym and the acting as well.
Cheers,
we appreciate your time, mate.
I'll be releasing a self-defence DVD soon, so keep an eye out for that.
Keep an eye out for QFC, hopefully. The mullet.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I might
QFC with a mullet.
3-on-1. Yeah, I'm going to do 3-on-1 , I think.
And I hope
wearing a blindfold.
I hope you've not gave QFC any ideas with the metal gloves you were talking about earlier. Don't do it.
Well, they haven't actually had any bare knuckle, have they, on QFC yet? They've had it's all been gloves, so I think bare knuckle on QFC is the next step. Yeah.
Obviously, just last thing for the UFC, get the cheesecake sorted out, man. No base is a travesty.
I know.
Stop that shit.
Terrible. Etihad, what are you playing at?
Cheers. Thanks everybody for tuning in. As always, we appreciate it.